empowerment coach, an authentic networking strategist, all of that meaning I love helping people get to the next level of their better and best self, particularly in helping them to utilize one of their most under nurtured resources, which is their professional relationships, in terms of building them out and making them sustainable in order to achieve their long-term professional and business goals. Welcome. So glad to be here with you all today. Hope you've had a great weekend. And today's topic is on mentorship and legacy building as a professional tool. For those of you who don't know, January has been designated by someone as Mentorship Month. And so I believe last year, maybe it was, that I started a conversation about it. And so decided to continue it this year as well. And later in the week on Wednesdays, you will get the replay from last year. So you'll get a double dose of a mentorship discussion. And so I hope you enjoy it. So for me, it won't be long, but what I do want to talk about is an aspect of mentoring that really goes I wouldn't say underutilized, but just not valued and not recognized as much, right? And it's really from the terms of, what does it mean to serve and be a mentor to someone in the scope of your professional career long term, right? And this is good for mentees as well, because generally someone who has been mentored is much more likely to serve as a mentor later. So if you've been a mentee, you are much more likely to be a mentor later because you understand the value of it. Okay, so let's step back. What are some of the values? When you're looking at what mentorship is about someone who has perhaps a greater one second, because we have a phone ringing, which doesn't happen often. And so, because, we always have to have something unexpected, right? That'll be gone in a second. So one of the things is, when we have a mentorship relationship, or you're serving as a mentor, it's about being willing to share your knowledge, your experience with someone who doesn't have as much of that, right? So they don't have the background that you have yet. They're looking for that support or someone to help provide some guidance for them to get there. And that's what mentoring in its most basic form is really about, right? It's really about just being willing to share with someone else about your experiences, your insights from those experiences, and what it can mean for them moving forward, right? And so when you do that, it's really good to be able to someone's really persistent. It's really about sharing, and sharing for a long-term impact. Okay. So let's say we're doing that. We have someone who is, it's something that I do all the time, right? I've helped mentor students when I was in college, mentoring high school students. When I was in college, I was being mentored. And it's one of the things that I truly understand the value of, because those experiences going both ways have really provided some great insight, some great learning and development for me, right? Whether I was the mentee or the mentor. Okay, so what does it mean in terms of your long-term professional relationships? Well, when you are willing to serve in a mentor position, it also helps you in terms of your professional um, value, let's say, because you are willing and understand the value of passing along knowledge to someone when it's not required. That's the other piece, right? Because a lot of times these mentorship efforts or programs, they can be structured. I've been a part of structured ones. I've spoken at structured ones. I spoke at one yesterday. It was an awesome kickoff for YWA. Hello there. Shout out to YWA. Um, but there's also a lot of unofficial mentoring that goes on when someone is introduced. They're like, hey, I have this student, I have this young professional who needs a little guidance. Are you willing to have a conversation with them? Are you willing to, take them under your wing and help guide them along, right? And this is not to say this is someone who's going to be your new bestie or any of that. That's never normally the relationship. The relationship is really very much one of professional and who can provide some guidance to someone who's, again, less experienced, less knowledgeable, and looking to get a leg up. And that said, here's the element of like the greatest like gift that's built into that. Because as you start to share with that person, so this is from the mentor perspective, as you start to share with that person and have conversations with them, and give them insights on their situation based on your experience, guess what's also going on? Your couple of things. Number one, you also are probably learning something, right? Because with this being someone who's probably younger or less experienced, so because it's not just an age thing, I want to make that clear. It's not just about an age thing, but younger or less experienced in the work. And so there's something for you to learn, right? If there's some new developments have happened in the field that they're facing that you didn't have to face. So it's like, oh, well, I didn't know about that. Tell me more about that, right? Or there's been shifts. So it's a great learning opportunity for the mentor as well to get up to speed on where things currently are in the industry and the marketplace that these newer, younger professionals are having to deal with. The second piece of it is and that's the normal thing, right? That's what people are really expecting. The second piece of it is that if you start out and serve in a way that is truly impactful, you are able to build a pipeline of young professionals, of young people, of other people who can follow in your footsteps for the long term, who will then look to you for guidance for much longer, right, than maybe the initial relationship, and or will provide guidance to those coming behind them because of what you modeled as a mentor. Can you see the value of that? Not just in your industry, not just in your your job, your organization, your industry, but in your community, so that the impact becomes even bigger than you, quite honestly. And it becomes one of those things where people start to look to it, because if they say, hey, Patricia was one of my mentors back when I was in college or something like that, the people are like, oh, wow, because that connection now becomes something that's looked upon with respect, with value, with a certain level of standards that they know that you come with. So here, perfect example. My son is an athlete. A lot of y'all know this. If you follow me, I'm always posting things about it. And one of his trainers, I'm just fascinated by, because he's built out this really great business based on his experience in the athletic field, and taking it and bringing it to the younger generation, like very young, not just high school, but even a little bit younger, and building them up. Even though they may be years away from being ready to play college ball, he's putting things in place. He's training them. He's showing them and exposing them, not just to him, but also to those students and those young people who are slightly older than them or slightly ahead of them in their athletic experience, so that they're learning from each other as well when they're observing, right? Now, here's the part that just fascinates me, because I'm sitting there, it can never just be that simple. I always have to start analyzing things. But then I see, as these young people move along, and now you've got folks that he's trained who are now in college. He's now got folks that he's trained that's now getting ready for the draft. And I'm not quite sure if someone's made it to the NFL yet, but he may be on the verge of that. So now there's this pipeline. There's this pipeline that's been built of these athletes who have been trained by this particular trainer, who, when you see his name and saying you've been trained by Coach so-and-so, people automatically know what that means. There's a standard there. There's an expectation. His reputation's attached to this, right? And when they're coming through, it's not just about, you're providing these quality athletes. You're building a legacy. He's building, and I called him on. I'm like, man, you legacy building over here. And he just kind of smiled and grinned, because at some point it becomes much bigger than him, because these things start to trickle down, and then it just keeps building momentum, so that the quality of the athletic training and the standards that he set become a part of the marketplace and a part of the expectations that others will come to see and expect to receive, when they're entering the college level or professional level. Okay. Now, I say all of that too. The same thing applies to other professions. Okay. When you're in an academic one or, business one, whatever, the same thing applies. And it's funny because I remember as a younger professional, when I'd have young people who were just starting, or college students coming along, the one thing or a couple of things I always made sure to stress, particularly when I was working in the legislative field, is I'm happy to serve as your mentor, but you need to understand what that means, right? There's a standard of behavior and professionalism that I expect. Because if you show up and say, oh, Patricia Hayes is my mentor, that's my reputation at stake, right? And so I am going to expect you to carry yourself in a certain way, because people are going to associate you with me. And moving forward down through the years, what I love is I've had some of these young folks who have become, like younger siblings as well, right? I'm thinking of one in particular. And where she has said, there are so many things I learned from you during that time. And I look back now, she looks back now, and she sees certain people acting a certain way. And she was like, oh no, that would never have happened on Patricia's watch, right? That's the legacy that's being left behind, which is you've got a group of people who are now like, no, here's a certain standard. And this is the standard I'm rolling with as well moving forward. That's the legacy and the power of a strong mentorship relationship. And so when you're doing that, and how I say that becomes a leadership tool, is because you're becoming a leader in a whole different way, one where people are looking up to you, but you're also building future leaders. You're creating future leaders. And by leaders, not just people with titles. Y'all know how I feel about that. I just talked about that last week. But people who have a level of influence, who have built up trust with the folks that they work with, and who know how to make difficult decisions and can move forward knowing that people are willing to follow them through a difficult time or through something that's unusual or new or whatever, because the trust is there, the influence is there, the impact is there, and so they're willing to move forward. Do you see how that works? It's really fascinating, and it's one that I love. And I just wanted to bring it up. Again, this conversation was already scheduled, but just yesterday, I served on a panel for a group here in Austin, the Young Women's Alliance. Yay, shout out. And it's a great group of professional women who have incorporated a structured mentorship program into their organization, and where there's matching and it's very deliberate, and there's planned activities, and there are expectations, right, for the mentors and the mentees to meet a certain number of times, all of those different things. But even beyond that, it's to build this pipeline of mentees who will become mentors. And that's not the intent, but that's what's happening. And because I heard several people yesterday say that, hey, I was a mentee, I gained great value from this project, and so it was my turn to give back. And that is the power of what can happen when you engage and do that. Is your mentoring efforts, you're giving back, you're helping to support and bring along some professionals in your space, also leads to creating a legacy of more people who will continue that effort and build that goodwill, right? And continue to have that. Because here's the thing, there are a lot of people out there who do not have the support that they need in order to be successful in their positions. And they have to learn this the hard way. Why do that, right? Everybody deserves an opportunity to perform at their best, to get that support, to be able to say, hey, maybe you should consider doing X or making a shift, or have you thought about, having someone there who they're accountable to, and to build that in and to learn along the way. That's really what we're talking about. And so, that's my thing. That's just wanted to get on and have a chat about what it looks like to be involved in a mentoring relationship, knowing and recognizing as well that you have the power and the ability to create a legacy that can move forward for years to come as a result of the efforts that you have engaged in, both as a mentee and as a mentor, and to move it forward, and how it absolutely can play into your own professional growth. That is so powerful, to learn how to engage with others at a different level, right? Kind of almost a teaching level, right? People don't want to say, oh, I'm not a teacher. But when you're providing that guidance, you're helping to, someone's learning from you, which means you're teaching them something. Hate to tell you that. But all of those things roll up into it being a fantastic professional development opportunity that flows both ways. So if you are given that opportunity, if someone offers to serve as a mentor, again, all of these are not going to be long-term relationships, but the potential for it is there. My college mentor, one of them, I have now known and been engaged with for over 30 years. And that is the truth. And it is one of those relationships that started off because she was a working professional. I was a college student trying to learn the ropes in the legislature. And she had put it out there to one of her colleagues. That's what I want to do. That's what she wanted to do. She wanted to provide and give someone else the insights about what it looked like to be on the inside of this process. And so I did. And all along the way, literally, and I've said this before publicly, and I tell her all the time, like my career literally can be traced back to that opportunity. Because after that, I was able to use her as a reference. I would call her for advice. She would help me get the next job. Like all of that flowed from that. Even to the point that we got to one point when I was calling her for a job change about mid-career. And she was like, look at here. I don't know why you're still calling me. I need to be calling you for advice. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh. And it wasn't just a joke. She was serious, because at that point, we became colleagues. That's the word I'm looking for, where she would call me for insights about what was going on back here in Texas, because she had since moved out of state. And so she would call me like, hey, I need some insight about X, Y, and Z, who do you know, whatever. And then we became colleagues. And that has been so powerful. All these years later, now, we check on if she's here in Texas, she makes sure and gives me a call. If I'm up where she is on the East Coast, I give her a call. We try to get together. And if not, we stay in contact through LinkedIn, messaging back and forth, all of those things, and, a phone call. That's the power. It doesn't have to be big and complicated, but you just have to be willing to put yourself out there, both as a mentor and as a mentee, so that you can be open to giving and receiving. And therefore, laying the groundwork for the next level of someone's career, including your own. Okay? All right. That's what I have for today. So excited. All right. If this has been helpful to you, or if you have other questions, please be sure and drop them in the chat or in the comments. I do go back and look at them after we're done recording. I'll be happy to follow up with you. If you are looking for some opportunities as you move forward into this new year, please hit me up in the DMs or click on the link in the bio, because I'm open for consultations to help people get a great, kickoff to this new year. So reach out, and we can have a chat about what your needs are, to help you become a more empowered professional, and to build out the relationships that you need to get you to where you would like to be in your career. All right. Thanks everyone for being here today, and I will chat with you later. Take care. Bye-bye.